Anthony Moyles is with us in studio. Anthony, good morning to you.
Morning, gents.
Nathan has
sounds like backtracking to me, Chair.
Nathan has already been talking about Mayo. We managed.
Let's talk about Kildare.
We managed to lull him into we're actually really good. We will talk about Kildare. We can do that. That's fine. Tailteann Cup. I mean, it's going
to be a really good one this year.
Vastly underrated competition, I feel.
Yeah.
Maybe we haven't paid enough attention to this in the past.
It could arguably be more important than the real one, than the sound.
Exactly. Yeah. Any port in a storm.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't think you'll be on your own. We may be in it as well. So the way things are going.
Division 2 is the bear pit that we thought it was going to be. Let's start at Division 1, right? Because Mayo did hockey Tyrone. And it's not Tyrone's only bad performance so far. It's also not Mayo's only good performance so far. But we've seen this before from Tyrone in the league where they have a bad time. We're kind of taking it as a matter of course that they'll recover. But last season they didn't recover.
Yeah.
So what's the truth? Where do you stand on where they are at the moment?
It's funny. I watched the game back last night purely for the real, two aspects. I wanted to see, just because we were obviously talking about Tyrone and the performances haven't been great over the last while. And I wanted to see, was it more of a mental thing? Was it something that they've been trying to do something different? Are they trying to change the style of play, or is it just that there's something missing and a real hangover which they've been suffering now for quite a spell, actually. And I don't think they're trying to do anything different. They seem to have same personnel by and large, same setup really. They have Frank Burns, I suppose, in. He is kind of playing as a six, a double six. He's sitting in front. He was sitting in front of O'Shea a lot last night, or should I say on Saturday. But I tell you what they're missing. They're missing a spark, Ger. Like they're missing something. They were actually really good. First 20-25 minutes, they were arguably the better team. They actually could have been 6 points to 2 up. They could have actually been 1-5 to 2 up. They had a good goal chance just before actually the ball got sent down the other end and Mayo got their first goal. But literally when the first goal went in for Mayo, it was just like bang, someone just popped the balloon and the air just went out of them. The body language straight away, you see fellas just turning around. There wasn't even any kind of real spikiness, there wasn't any narkiness, there wasn't fellas going, you didn't track that run. They just turned around, heads went straight down, and they just, kind of assumed and resumed back out to their positions. Which, for Tyrone, as we know, in their pomp a couple of years ago, there was an arrogance, there was a in your face, there was a very much, we're going to put you down and we're going to come back at you again and again and again, we're going to grind you down. And it wasn't that, they seemed meek, they just seemed to be. They weren't bullied, and they actually had some. Like I focused on it because I actually thought they were actually playing some decent patterns of play. But literally from that goal and then the second goal, it was just like it just went from bad to worse as from a confidence level. And then it looks like they're doing it, but they're not really doing it. Like the Hessian goal was just an outstanding piece of skill, but if you actually watch it beforehand, 3 Tyrone players stop. Like Peter Hart is running back as Hessian gets the ball. Originally, Hart is in front of him. Hessian moves forward, plays the 1-2, Hart stops, Moyles stops, and then I can't remember the third Tyrone player stops. And they all stop thinking, someone else is going to do something here. Morgan is going to save it. And it doesn't happen, of course. And then the last goal is an absolute. Like if you watch the last goal, McCurry is standing there. Like it's a total just lack of awareness who's actually doing their job. He has to chase back. He's actually marking his man behind the free, if you get me. He starts chasing O'Connor, and then as the goal goes in, he turns around and he's just looking and he's saying, like, where are we here? Know. So I think there's a number of things going on.
That's an attitude thing, though, right? That's not. They haven't become bad footballers. They haven't had like a 1/5 of the team decide to leave.
Yeah.
So that's not unfixable.
Although, honestly, if you'd gone to the game and you left after 25 minutes, you go, Mayo were possibly in trouble here because they were actually finding gaps. They were running at Mayo down the middle. They were clipping over a few good scores. McShane was causing a little bit of problem, but then. I tell you where they're struggling, I think, a little bit, and you're right on what you say. It is an attitudinal situation, okay? I don't know why that's being caused. I don't know if there's something going on in the background. I don't know if it's because of the dual mandate on the management team. I don't know. Things don't look like a happy camp, to be honest. They don't look happy on the sideline. They don't look happy on the pitch. I haven't heard any stories. It's been fairly tight, so maybe it will come out. But they seem like a team that definitely require a spark, but a spark just doesn't come. You have to generate it. You really have to. And they seem like they're kind of literally on the ropes now, just waiting to be knocked out. And
I don't feel it's not potentially a fitness thing where they're in this new calendar thinking, you know what, Ulster, we're going to take that seriously. We're going to try and peak 6 weeks down the line, where Kevin McStay's come in and said, I want Mayo fighting at full cylinders right from the off.
I don't know. I don't think so, Nathan. They didn't look off it from a fitness perspective last night. Again, it's not a fitness thing. It's a thing in your mindset. I remember years ago we played a game against Wexford, and I remember Colm Coyle was over us, and we had the game obviously videoed, and Matty Ford cut in. He got a ball on the left hand side. He cut in, and I remember there was 3 or 4 of us chasing him back. Now it looked like we were chasing him back, but as he pointed out on the video, and we watched it repeatedly, and he called us all, and we absolutely got strips torn off us. We weren't really, we weren't going flat out to get him. We were motioning it, and there's a slight difference, but you can see it. So the Tyrone lads are kind of, from the optics, it looks like they're really pushing it, but they're not. They're not at it where they were, say, 2 years, where there was just that manic sense of we have to get back, we have to crowd these players out, we have to get to the ball. Even in their attack, their attack is very one kind of off runner. So in other words, if you watch like McShane, I don't know if you saw it, but he after the second goal he gets a ball and he comes inside on his left foot and he goes to kick it, and he drops it in front of the goalkeeper. It bounces in front of the goalie from about 25 yards out. He fists another one wide and he kicks another one really bad. And every single time that happened, well, actually, you could look at it and say, geez, that's terrible football. But he had no options. He had no fellas coming at him at angles. There's no real sense. They're not trying anything different as well in the forward. So I think there's a major crisis there, and they need to fix it. And I don't think it's necessarily we're trying to look to build for later in the year. They have a lot of issues.
What about on the other side, Mayo and their ability to find these hard-running halfbacks who are creative and score getters? And also, it turns out the mercurial forwards are no longer mercurial; they're just good.
Yeah, it's funny to watch the progression of Mayo, obviously, from a team who, they would have relied on the likes of Keegan and Durkin and guys like this coming forward and clipping scores for them, and albeit Hession gets that amazing goal, they have gone from a team that, yes, they have that, but they're not overly reliant on it anymore. So we, for the last number of years, would have always said, and I would have said, they need to find that extra bit of talent inside. So they have O'Donoghue, but the reliance on O'Donoghue is actually getting less and less, not because he's not well capable, but actually other guys are sharing the load. So every week, which is a positive for them, someone else is coming and stepping forward. So, last week it was the half forward, who kicked 4 scores.
Tails Carr.
No,
previous
Jordan.
week.
Yes.
Jordan
Yeah. So he steps up. Carr steps up. Aidan O'Shea is playing probably arguably the best football he's ever played, right? And his hands are excellent.
Dermot Connolly-esque, Nathan was saying.
Well, the ball in was absolutely peach of a ball. But you can see what they're doing. They're mixing long with short. They're mixing intricate little plays when it's crowded out, which Tyrone obviously did. They were quite happy to go left and right, but then try to find O'Shea with a pass. But unlike McShane on the far side, as soon as he receives the ball, he has 2 or 3 runners come and pass him at pace, and that's the key thing to break that mass defence. The pace is the key thing.
He has always been able to play that kick pass as well. That's the midfielder in him coming out. But
absolutely.
Actually, he doesn't have those responsibilities of the midfielder to get back and be completely shattered because they're running the legs off you.
Correct.
Up and down, up and down, up and down.
And the reliance on him out there, they used to get overrun. There was a sense that you'd get at Mayo because you'd overrun their midfield event. So, but they've got loads of legs out in the middle of the field. Now, on the flip side, and this is where I would caution a little bit, and we cautioned last week about this, they're scoring a lot of goals. They're not scoring a massive amount of points. They got 13 scores. I think it was 4-9, was it, or 4-10? So you kind of go, okay. And again, like Kerry last week, even though Tyrone were dead and buried. They didn't. They could have put a big score on them. Now maybe McStay, he made a few substitutions. He probably said, much like the Kerry game, well, this is nearly done at half time. Do we really need to push on? But the mentality should always be that you do push on. You don't give a sucker a second chance. So they should have put a real marker down on Tyrone. I thought they were a little bit sloppy second half, and actually they could have got more scores. But I think I suppose the warning sign I would put on Mayo a little bit is that teams will now start to look at them and work them out a bit and say, right, well, actually, can you go and kick scores from range, or are you heavily reliant on your goal scoring ability?
Yeah.
But there's no doubt about it. You know, they're playing with a massive confidence now, and you can see. And like, if you were to, put smiley faces on, like they're smiling, they're happy. You can see the camp. There's a togetherness. Tyrone is complete disarray.
Is there a bit of a Schmidt-Farrell with Horan, McStay that? Horan puts the basics there yet again, and we saw last time. Then Rochford comes in and sort of brings them to a new level. That he's given a lot of these guys their time over the last couple of years. He's bedded them in, and now actually it's been left to somebody else to.
Well, you could be like the Hessian goal is is that a symptom of that? In the sense of, like, you would know a number of years ago he kind of burst onto the scene. Then he got lost then for a while. He was a sub for a while. I remember kind of looking last year saying, well, like, why isn't it? Because I was really impressed with him. I thought he was a really, really good player. Confidence obviously got hit. I think he got injured before. But he did the man marking job on Paddy Clifford last week, and he did it really, really well. So he's an excellent footballer. But his ability in that is that he just doesn't give the pass and he doesn't get it and just ship it left or right or kind of go back. He's thinking forward all the time, and he's thinking go and receive, and all of them are thinking that. That's a mindset change.
Yeah. And it's the exact opposite of the mindset that we were talking about with Tyrone. So definitely little acorns there for all the Mayo fans to get suitably carried away with.
Yeah.
Choo-choo. On board that hype train, Nathan.
No.
You did a good.
It's still February, isn't it?
You did a good job dampening it down earlier on. We were like, we've got the best forwards. Anyway, Kerry Armagh game was really interesting in that Armagh had a very specific plan, and we're still waiting to see Kerry. This is early stage Kerry. This is a very early season for them, and as we've been talking about in the show a little bit earlier on, the championship structure doesn't really do Kerry at this time of the year any favours in terms of want. They don't need anything. They just need not to get relegated, and then everything will be happy. They want to be in the middle, and that game against Cork looks like it's going to be interesting. Cork are good again, but after that they're still going to be in a round robin where they're definitely going through to an All-Ireland quarter-final. There's zero jeopardy from our perspective about Kerry being in an All-Ireland quarter-final. So I think Jack O'Connor made a big deal of like losing against Donegal and the performance against Mayo. He was sickened about after that, and then everybody's back in now. There was no rest for the Cliffords, no kind of sense that, okay, and Paul Murphy was straight in as well. So they do want results, and getting the result in a performance like that is probably the type of thing that afterwards, that's just giving the team confidence again.
I think he wants results, but he doesn't want a sense of apathy coming into it, and we'll just rest on our laurels. He wants that challenge and that competitiveness in the team. He wants fellas stepping up. He probably, one of the things we've mentioned is he a bad injury to one of his main guys? He wants depth. So yesterday I thought Armagh were really good, actually. They set their stall out. And it was kind of like a battle of two basketball, kind of, you could see it, between obviously Donaghy on one side. You have a situation where Armagh's press, if you watch what Armagh do, and this is kind of, we'll talk about Kildare and a couple of other teams later on, but Armagh do what's a thing in basketball which works really, really well from a defensive point of view, is that you sync with the ball. We spoke about this before. But if the ball passes you by, you try to get back to that situation. So as a defender, you look and you try to have everything out in front of you. So if the ball comes out, you're able to push up. If the ball goes in behind, you get back. You don't turn your back on the ball. So all the defenders are watching where the ball is and one eye on their man. So Armagh yesterday, Kerry found it very, very difficult to break that down. Anything down through the middle, they came into the honey pot and they were just trying to grab them. The only way you beat that is pace. That's the only way you can beat it, and angles of running. So you get the ball in, and whoever receives it inside, it's just one touch football then. You don't take a play on the ball. It's one touch. It's fast hands. And if you watch any of the good scores Kerry got, where they sliced through Armagh, it was one touch. I give it into Nathan, he slips it to you, I'm coming off your left, you slip it to me, and the defenders don't have an opportunity to reset their feet and tackle you. Armagh will be happy. He'll be disappointed they lost it, because it was a couple of moments of just, McQuillan at the end. He has Shawnee O'Shea, and then he kind of gives him a second dunt, and the referee blows him for it. And that was a free that kind of really just set it apart. They had an opportunity themselves. But I don't think he'd be overly disappointed, because he went toe to toe with them. And by the way, that was a ding dong yesterday, or the other. There was plenty in it. The referee, I know we're always trying to give referees a bit of stick, but I thought the referee from Galway, he was sporting a pair of Vans trainers, which I thought were very, very, very kind of retro Galway man. But I thought he refereed it brilliantly. He let things go. He let the intensity go, and it was as close to a championship kind of fair as you would get this time of the year. Like, Armagh decided, right, we're going to give it to you, and Kerry didn't shy away from it.
So Armagh coming away from that feeling good about themselves?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I think they would be happy. I think they'd be disappointed they didn't get something out of the game. Absolutely, they will be. On Kerry, on the flip side, again, he is motioning towards a team that is just building confidence.
Yeah. Like, it's been great listening to Paddy Andrews over the last 3 seasons explain how the league mattered to them at different stages and why individual matches would be. And then I thought Liam Hayes put it well last week when he was talking about that's a team that wins 1 point games. He was talking about meeting Jim Gavin. They win a lot of 1 point games. That just speaks to mindset.
Yeah.
And so Kerry can't fake that game in the Munster Championship until they get to the end of the Munster Championship. And again, there's probably, depending on the draw, they could end up having a bunch of Division 3 teams in Sam Maguire. So these matches are actually, that's the bit where it matters. Like, it matters a few individual performances, a bit of depth, and then him putting the pressure on them. We need league points. We need to win this game.
Yeah. I know it is, and it is putting pressure on, because without the application of pressure, you won't find what your players will do when they're faced with it. So these new guys who are coming in, such as Roach and a few other fellas, you need to find that they can do it, and all he really needs to get is an extra two fellas where he'll say they may not necessarily be starting, but they're guys that he can look to. Like, Brosnan comes on, he kicks a great score near the end, under pressure, a score that they needed out on the right hand side with his left kick. That again is, you're coming on to do a job, and we need you to get a score here. Yeah. He comes up, he sticks it, and ultimately that's probably one of the winning scores. But what O'Connor will like is the fact that he knows, like, if we're sitting down and we're saying, right, here are our league games, and that's why the league, especially at this time of the year, can be a bit tricky. I thought some teams yesterday, not to do a disservice to Monaghan, but Roscommon looked like to me they did a big heavy week this week. I wouldn't be surprised if they did 4 or 5 days in a row, because some fellas will say, I've got my points on the board. Yeah, well, Davey afterwards was saying, finally that whole we're beaten for a year and a half thing, that nonsense is over. I was like, never seen a man as happy that, Absolutely, yeah. And again, the league takes on different nuances. I'd say he'd be delighted, because he'll now bring them down a couple of pegs. Because this could have been a runaway train. Next thing you end up going into the Connacht Championship and you're bet. And you're kind of going, Jesus, where are we now? So O'Connor knows that Armagh game is a big game. He's saying this is against probably top 3 or 4, 5 in the county opposition. This is a game who they're going to provide us with something that we will face, which is that defence I spoke about, where they're just saying, you know what, we're happy to make this 9 points each. Yeah. We don't want to kick 16 points. We're actually, because people were saying, Armagh weren't very adventurous in the first. Didn't want to be adventurous in the first half, because if they were adventurous in the first half, they would have left gaps behind. They were literally saying, this is rope-a-dope stuff. We're going to sit here, we're going to wait, and then we're going to try to tag on our scores. Yeah. But we're certainly not going to get sucked out by you. That was practice for the Ulster Championship for them. Yeah. Let's talk about the 3 of the Leinster teams and by extension Louth as well. So the Dubs, Paul Gavin was making the point on Twitter that perhaps they're actually happy enough, listed off like 6 players that they were missing, come from 6 points down against Clare. Poor Clare for the second week in a row. Yeah. And I'm sure Clare were heartbroken going back down the road, because it would have been a big win for them. Either that or
something really bad is happening in Dublin. You know, like again, they don't have to peak. They've like one game in Leinster that probably won't be that risky.
Yeah.
And then they're through to Sam Maguire. So, and they too now have, they did Derry next week. So interesting to see what kind of a team they put out there.
Yeah, it's I think, again, very, very passive first half. You know, Clare got some, but it was, you know, they were very, very passive. No real sense of intensity. They started to increase the level of intensity the second half, especially when they went, or whatever it was, 6 or 7 down. And all of a sudden then they started turning Clare over. They started transitioning the ball faster. But he brought the big guns on. He probably ended up with, I'd say, arguably 5 of his 6 starting forwards on the field, if not 6 of 6. We spoke about this last week. I don't think they have unearthed anything different, neither in a major forward who can take the mantle or the style of play that they're really doing. You know, they're still running the same patterns of play. Like Kilkenny is still doing this kind of east to west thing where he's trying to, and teams are actually going, that's fine. You know, I'm not actually going to put a man on you. He's different to Clifford. Clifford, when he's doing that role, will stop, look, and ping a pass. Kilkenny will, you know, he'll give these kind of looping hand passes to guys. But people are kind of saying, well, actually, we know what they're going to do. As the ball comes in, they either do that basketball move, which is the one where they come towards you and then they go the backdoor cut, or they'll do the loop around. So
they don't quite have the discipline as well in their shot taking that they had of the Gavin era, where, you know, they,
you get hammered for shooting if you didn't score.
Yeah, so you've a couple of guys like James McCarthy was taking a few shots, which, you know, wasn't his forte. You know, you've got guys taking shots from bad angles, wrong shot selection. But
so you're not convinced?
I'm not. No, I'm not. I like, again, they'd usually blow Clare away, you know, they would. They've played Kildare, like we've seen how Kildare's progression has gone since the start of the year. And like, I mean, Kildare could have easily won that game first night. Yeah. You know, so you're kind of going, where is the spark?
Unless they are doing the heavy block of training and they're like, and maybe Mannion is that forward who is the one, and so
you've Mannion, you've John Small, right? So they make a difference. You've Howard to come back, but again, like, I mean, but in the last number of years, they would have always been missing fellas. And we've no one would have ever said, oh well, they have to get thing back. They would have just said, well, they've missed him, but they've loads of talent. So what I think they've now got their guys who they have had for the last number of years. But I'm not saying, Jesus, there's 3 or 4 fellas who are ready to take them out. Like, McCaffrey came on and kind of provided the spark. So they're kind of going, well, we have to go back to him.
Well,
you know? So that's a worry.
Not much rather be them than us, I have to say.
Thanks. I'm being thrown into the mixer here, obviously.
Well, I think so, because I thought it looked like Louth were going to come up and go straight back down, but that's not the case. They now have they've got Kildare next week, and they're going to be feeling themselves. They owe Kildare after last season in the championship.
Absolutely.
This is a chance for them to at home. I didn't realise yesterday's game was in Park Tailteann until I looked at it there. So me to get caught by Louth, and then Louth Kildare next week, because essentially if Kildare lose that, they're more than likely going to be in the Tailteann Cup. Well,
depending on how. I wasn't at the game, but I talked to a few people who were 20 minutes into the second half. Meath are a man down and they're 5 points up. You're saying, right, turn the radio off, they'll see this one out here, and they end up losing by 3. They only get 1 point in the last 15 minutes. So that's alarm bells time. Yeah, you could say the 14 men, you know, maybe, you know, playing against a breeze, running out of a bit of puff, blah, blah, blah. It's a worry. It's a massive, massive win for Louth. But in the actual intricacies of the game, they were very, very good on the press, I believe. They were very well organised in their defence, you know, which is what you expect. So Hart, Devlin is in there. You know, he has them playing. And again, it's kind of like the Derry thing. And similar to Mayo. Once you're playing to a pattern of play and you get buy-in from fellas, as soon as you get fellas saying question mark, you're going to say, right, okay, this guy is maybe not on board. But you look at Derry, you look at these teams that have the buy-in to that. And this is the modern game. It is. Like, I mean, people can say what they like about, oh, well, we need to be kicking the ball more. When the team have the opposition, you need to make sure that you set up in a way that you're trying your best, whether it's in your own half or whether it's in midfield or whether it's in their half. You're trying your best to put pressure and get the ball back. Yeah. That's the thing. It's pretty simple when you think about it. Louth did that. Punish Meath, and if you want to look at the divergence between 2 sets of smiley faces, like Louth are coming into this game against Kildare absolutely buzzing, and Kildare have to be on the floor. Because watching some of the highlights yesterday from Kildare, I was kind of saying, like, okay, Derry are playing really well, and Derry can do that to you. But coming to Newbridge, I was saying, you know, and I know people will say, Kildare's game doesn't actually suit Newbridge, which I don't know if I buy that. Well, Jesus, the amount of one-on-one defending yesterday was outrageous. So watch back some of the goals, some of the scores. So when I say one-on-one defending, what I mean is Kildare guys, I'm going back to this thing about the ball and syncing with the ball. The ball in behind, and Kildare guys, I'm marking Nathan and I'm facing Nathan, and the play is all there. So it's now one-on-one inside.
So there's no strategy.
No strategy. That man gets skinned.
Strategy.
It's back at the net time. So
the difficulty is that Cork came to Newbridge and absolutely annihilated Kildare, and now Derry have come to Newbridge and annihilated them too. And their only victory is a come from behind victory away against Clare. So they're going to have to go to Louth and win that game.
Well, it's a weird one, Jerry. Like I know you, but you know, for a team and a county where there was so much excitement about the management team.
Yeah,
like it's not that long ago we were talking about that. You know, the greats of the game in Kildare in the last 20 or 30 years, and pulling all of that experience and knowledge in. It's actually there actually isn't even a story about them. You know, like there hasn't been good or bad. So it's just kind of like they're there, and it's not a good situation. And that game next weekend is enormous for both teams.
All right, Anthony, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks a million.
Cheers, lads.